Good day to our DepEd family, especially to our teachers, master teachers, and teacher broadcasters watching. I am Bianca of the BHROD Human Resource Development Division, and welcome to episode 2 of our RPMS-PPST for school year 2021 to 2022. So in the previous episode, or episode 1, the speaker was able to discuss to you what has happened in the past years, or what we call the PPST-based RPMS throughout the years. Specifically, she was able to give you an overview of the key features of this year's RPMS-PPST, or our DepEd Memorandum number 4, Series 2022. So this time, on episode 2, we intend to go deeper or dive into the 18 PPST indicators specified in our DepEd memorandum. And this covers our proficient and highly proficient indicators for our DepEd teachers. Okay, so specifically for this episode, we have the following objectives. And our first objective is, again, to discuss the different PPST indicators for both proficient and highly proficient teachers, specifically our full-time teacher broadcasters. And towards the end of my presentation, I will be sharing with you the updates on our alternative classroom observation. So I hope all of you are comfortable in your seats wherever you may be around the Philippines. I encourage you to take notes of your questions or clarifications, and maximize the use of our comment box down below. So now we are about to start our discussion on the 18 PPST indicators for this school year. So just a quick recap on what was discussed in episode 1. So the DepEd Memorandum number 4, Series 2022 provides you the key features of what's new or what's updated for this school year's PPST. Specifically, we have here the kinds of teachers that this year's PPST indicators apply to. So on your screen, you can see here we have two kinds of teachers. The one on the left part of your screen, we have our regular teachers, those who have direct contact with our learners, and those that adopt any of the following learning delivery modalities that we have, such as the synchronous learning, the asynchronous learning, the blended learning, the modular learning, and the limited face-to-face classes. Now, moving on to the right portion of your screen, you also have here our full-time teacher broadcasters. Now, when we say full-time, we mean that these are our teacher broadcasters who have official reassignment orders to the central office. They have no direct contact with our students. They are the ones who deliver the lessons through TV-based, radio-based, and or DepEd Teleradio. And they're also the ones who creates and contextualizes their video or audio lessons and radio-based instruction. So at this point, I would like to announce to our viewers that if you are a regular teacher or what we call part-time teacher broadcasters, please pause or stop this video and redirect yourselves to our episode 2 intended for our regular teachers, because on that episode, our speaker will share with you the RPMS-PPST tool intended for regular teachers. But if you are a full-time teacher broadcaster watching this video and listening to me, then this is the video for you. So I hope you stay and tune into this episode. And again, we encourage you to take notes so that later on, as we view the comment box, our secretariat will be able to get your comments and questions, and we will be able to respond to your queries on real time. So again, if you are a full-time teacher broadcaster, please stay and watch this video, because in the next few slides, I will be now presenting to you the different PPST indicators for our full-time teacher broadcasters. So in the next slide, I will be dividing my presentation into two. I will first discuss to you the proficient indicators, followed by later on the highly proficient indicators intended for our full-time teacher broadcasters. So there, on your screen, you now see the summary indicators for proficient teachers. Now, for your information, these indicators apply to both regular teacher and full-time teacher broadcaster. The difference is the difference comes down to your MOVs and your performance indicators. So pagdating sa ating mga objectives, our 19 objectives, walang problema, lahat po ng teacher pare-pareho. Lahat ng proficient teacher pare-pareho po tayo ng indicators. But given the various contexts that we have, of course, we had to adjust the MOVs and your performance indicators to fit your current situation. Now, so again, I will be discussing first the indicators for the proficient teacher, and my presentation will be further divided depending on the classification of indicators that we have here. So first, I will discuss to you our classroom observable indicators, so those highlighted in green on your screen. Next, I will be moving on to indicators that may be considered COI or NCOI, depending on the MOVs. So later on, I'll explain to you why that is the case. And then lastly, those highlighted in white, I will discuss to you the remaining indicators, or what we call the non-classroom observable indicators. Okay, so now we will start with the discussion on our COIs for proficient teachers or full-time teacher broadcasters. Okay, so what we have here now on our screen is Objective 1, or the applied knowledge of content within and across curriculum teaching areas. If you have been with us since 2017 when we released the DepEd policy on the PPST, and if you were still also with us when we first have our rollout on the PPST around school year 2018, then you are very familiar with this objective already, because this particular objective has been present in our PPST or RPMS-PPST tools, because we believe that this is one of the most critical indicators in our PPST. So you will note here that under the column for the means of verification, we have highlighted that when we say classroom observable indicator, the MOV that is required is, of course, the classroom observation tool, or in some cases, the inter-observer agreement form. Now, since you are teacher broadcasters, your COTs shall be obtained from an observation of a video or audio lesson that is SLM-based or MELC aligned. And upon consultation with our full-time teacher broadcasters in the central office, we were informed that there are varying functions of our teacher broadcasters that are classified basically into two. You have our teacher broadcasters who are on cam, or the ones that does the broadcasting. We also have teacher broadcasters who perform post-production functions. So for the benefit of everyone who is watching, please allow me to briefly explain the difference of the two. So when we say teacher broadcaster who is on cam, they are the ones who are delivering the lesson in front of the camera. So they are the teachers that you see on our DepEd Facebook page, delivering the lesson to our learners all around the Philippines. When we say teacher broadcasters performing a post-production functions, these are our teachers that are behind the camera, who are behind the scenes. So they may be tasked with script writing or editing the script or the lesson to be delivered by those who are doing on-cam functions. They may also be teachers in charge of crafting graphics or illustrations for a particular video lesson. They may also be in charge of musical compositions to be added to our video lesson or audio lesson. So there are two types. There are two functions that we are looking at when we are talking about teacher broadcasters. But when it comes to your means of verification, we made sure that regardless of your function, this MOV and the performance indicators will apply to you. So let's take a look first at this objective 1. Again, applied knowledge of content within and across curriculum teaching areas. The required MOV is COT. And when you submit your COT rating sheet, we have a note here that you should provide annotations of your contribution to the video lesson. Because again, given that you are performing different functions, but you are still a full-time teacher broadcaster, we need to take note of what was your specific contribution on that video lesson or audio lesson. So let's move on to the performance indicators. So you will see here, for example, to get an outstanding or a rating of 5, it says that you should have demonstrated a level 7 as shown in the COT rating sheet. If you demonstrated a level 6, that's a VS, level 5, a satisfactory, level 4, unsatisfactory, and then level 3 or a poor performance. So I would like to briefly show you the meaning or the descriptors of those levels that is indicated here on our objective number 1. So what is shown in your screen now is our classroom observation tool, or the COT RPMS rubric. And this particular tool is mainly used by our raters to guide them in the conduct of classroom observation whenever they review your video or audio lessons. So in this tool, you will see the rubric level summary containing the performance continuum, or the different levels of a proficient teacher, their respective labels, and also their descriptors. So for example, if you want an outstanding rating for a particular objective, it says there that you need to demonstrate a level 7, that means you should be at an integrating level already. And when we say integrating, we have provided here the description for you. But I would like to focus on the content of the rubric so that you have an idea what we mean by an outstanding performance when it comes to this certain COI objective. So at the top part of your screen, you have here the performance continuum. For indicator 1, apply knowledge of content within and across curriculum teaching areas. When they said that we should be able to demonstrate a level 7 in order for us to get an outstanding, the teacher applies accurate, in-depth, and broad knowledge of content and pedagogy that creates a conducive learning environment to meet individual or group learning needs. So that is what equates to an outstanding performance. If we take a look at level 6, which is equivalent to a very satisfactory, the teacher demonstrates accurate and in-depth knowledge of all concepts in responding to learners' questions. And as you go down a level, you will see that the ones highlighted in pink, are the specific descriptors for the specific performance level. So again, this tool is mainly used by our raters. But if you are a teacher or a ratee who wants to have a better understanding on how to demonstrate an outstanding performance, or how to better demonstrate the objective, rather, the intention of objective number 1, then you may refer to our COT RPMS rubric and view the performance continuum that we have here on the screen. In addition, aside from the descriptions of the levels that we have for the proficient teacher, underneath it, we also have the features of practice or sample scenarios of what a demonstration of this certain levels should look like. And again, it is used by our raters to guide them whenever they do classroom observation. Okay, let's take another look at another COI objective. That is objective number 3, the displayed proficient use of mother tongue, Filipino, and English to facilitate teaching and learning. Again, this requires the COT as MOV, and it follows the same logic as objective number 1 when it comes to its performance indicators. So let's take a look at our COT rubric again and try to understand what it is that we are looking for when we say that the teacher should display proficient use of mother tongue, Filipino, and English. So as you can see in our level, specifically in level 7, it says there that the teacher displays advanced high sub-level proficiency in the use of mother tongue and or Filipino and or English that extensively facilitates teaching and learning, including probing questions and feedback. So if you notice, what we are looking at here is the proficiency level. One common question of teachers regarding this indicator is, kailangan po ba present or should all the languages stated here, mother tongue, Filipino, English, be present whenever I deliver a lesson? The answer is no. We are not looking at the quantity of languages you know or the languages that you speak whenever you do classroom teaching or whenever you do a video lesson or audio recording. What we are looking at is your proficiency level. And for each level in our COT rubric, underneath it, the levels of proficiency are defined in the clarifications portion of our rubric. So if in case you want to hit that advanced high sub-level proficiency, then you should be able to, as stated here at the bottom part of our rubric, consistently handle class discussions in any of the mediums of instruction with linguistic ease, confidence, and competence in complex communicative tasks. So that's what our raters are looking for. It's not the number of languages that we speak in the classroom. Okay, so for the remaining COIs that we have for the proficient teachers, we have here objective 4, used effective verbal and non-verbal classroom communication strategies. Objective 5, established safe and secure learning environments to enhance learning through the consistent implementation of policies, guidelines, and procedures. We have objective 6, maintained learning environments that promote fairness, respect, and care to encourage learning. So again, if you recall objective 1 and objective 3, the MOVs and performance indicators stated on these objectives follow the same logic. The means of verification is still the COT. And then if you want to further or have a better understanding of what kinds of levels should be demonstrated in each performance indicator, then you should refer to our COT RPMS rubric. Okay, so now I am moving on to the indicators that may be considered as COI or NCOI. And we will start here at objective 7. So objective 7 is on the maintained learning environment that nurture and inspire learners to participate, cooperate, and collaborate in continued learning. If you can see on our means of verification column, we have here 2 sets of MOV, set A and set B. Now, when we say that, or when you see rather indicators that have this kind of format, they have the set A and set B, particularly for objective number 7, this means that the teacher has the freedom to choose which set of MOV they have to prepare or submit based on your existing situation. So, for example, set A requires that any supplemental material, whether it be in print or digital format made by you, the ratee, and you used it in the delivery of your lesson, then you can submit that specific MOV for this objective. Just take note that whenever we submit these supplemental materials should highlight that the learning environment that was nurturing and inspiring to learners, and that it resulted to them participating, cooperating, and collaborating during your lesson. So samples of supplemental materials are provided in the bullets below. So you may a supplemental material may be one lesson from a self-learning module, a lesson plan, a video or audio lesson that is SLM-based or MELC aligned, a client learner feedback on how the material encouraged them to participate, cooperate, and collaborate, or other learning materials that you think hit this particular objective. So aside from those supplemental materials required by this objective, it should also be partnered with client-learner feedback. Again, the client-learner feedback should hit this objective 7. Now, if in case you cannot provide any supplemental material, then you have set B, wherein you will undergo classroom observation and you will be assessed on how well you demonstrated this particular objective. Again, these set A's and set B's are not to be submitted all by the teacher. You have the freedom to choose. So you will not be required to submit both set A and set B MOVs. But you should also take note, let's go back to set A. We have to remember that when we submit our supplementary materials, aside from it should be hitting the intention of objective 7, we should also take note that our supplementary material features all elements of collaborative learning. So what do we mean by collaborative learning? When you look underneath our matrix on objective 7, you have here the one zoomed in. You have here the definition for the elements of collaborative learning, and that includes components on positive interdependence, individual accountability, and shared authority in assessing and facilitating one's learning. So if you want to get an outstanding or a rating of 5 for this particular objective, when you submit set A, then all of these elements should be present in your material. And then another note, on set A, we have here the phrase, the supplementary material made by the ratee. So we have received cases that it's possible that the supplemental material is not created by just one teacher. It could be a collaborative work among teachers, and we will still accept that as MOV. Our condition is that when you submit these types of supplementary materials, is that you should annotate your contribution, your specific contribution in the development of the said supplementary material. Moving on to objective 8. So in a way, this is similar to objective 7, wherein we have 2 sets of MOVs. Again, the teacher has the freedom to choose which set they want to prepare or submit based on their context. So again, set A, any supplemental material that is able to demonstrate this objective. But if you do not have the said supplementary material, then you may opt to undergo classroom observation and demonstrate this specific objective. Okay, moving on to our last 2 sets of objectives that may be classified as COI or NCOI. We have here objective 9, designed, adapted, and implemented teaching strategies that are responsive to learners with disabilities, giftedness, and talents. So kanina, I said the teacher has the option, has the freedom to choose the set of MOVs that they will produce. But this time around, the teacher's MOV will depend on the composition of their learners. So if in case your target audience, the target audience of your audio or video lesson is directed to learners with disabilities, giftedness, and talents, then your MOV will be set A. You will submit COT and undergo classroom observation. But if in case your target audience is not necessarily learners with disabilities, giftedness, and talents, then what you will need to submit is set B or the teacher reflection form. Specifically for set B, which will be for the teacher reflection form, which will be shown in episode 3, to guide the rater in the determination of your performance for this particular objective. We have provided the TRF rubric. So it's a sheet wherein there are specific levels on whether the teacher was able to demonstrate the required competency or performance for a particular performance indicator. So later on in our episode 3, we will explain to you the contents of the different forms, specifically this TRF. But If you can on your own or in advance, you can view our RPMS tools. The link is provided in our DM4 Series 2020. Okay, moving on to Objective 10. This is similar to our Objective 9, except that this objective focuses on our learners from indigenous groups. So we follow the same treatment. If your target audience is directed at learners from IP groups, then you will go with set A or the classroom observation tool. But if your target audience does not have any learners from IP groups, then we go for set B. You need to accomplish the teacher reflection form and submit it to your rater. Okay, so that ends our discussion on the classroom observable indicators for proficient teachers. Now we will move on to the NCOIs or the non-classroom observable indicators. Again, before moving forward this presentation, I encourage you to take down notes, especially your questions or clarifications, because we are continuously monitoring our comment box so we can answer or address your concerns in real time. All right, so let's continue the discussion. We have here on the screen Objective 11, adapted and implemented learning programs that ensure relevance and responsiveness to the needs of learners. The MOV required for this objective is, again, any supplemental material made by the ratee that highlights adapting and implementing learning programs that ensure relevance and responsiveness to the needs of our learners, coupled again with client or learner feedback. Underneath our table, so we have a reminder again, when it comes to supplementary materials, if the supplementary material is a product of a collaborative effort among teachers, then the ratee should specify through an annotation his or her specific contribution to the material. For Objective 11, we have here utilized assessment data to inform the modification of teaching and learning practices and programs. The MOV for this objective is one lesson plan or a lesson script for TV or radio-based instruction, highlighting the utilization of available assessment data. So what we want to take note for this objective is the definition of the components of instruction. If you look at our performance indicators, specifically the outstanding column, you will see there that what is required is that the teacher should utilize assessment data to inform the modification of teaching and learning practices and programs in all the components of instruction in the lesson plan or script to improve student learning. And then further down the indicators, from all, it became 2 components to 1 component until it was identified, but it was poorly used as basis. So what we want to emphasize is the presence of these components of instruction. And we have defined that underneath the table for Objective 12. So when we say components of instruction, these 3 elements here, the learning objectives, the instructional activities, and assessment should be present on your material. Moving on to Objective 13, maintained learning environments that are responsive to community contexts. Again, the means of verification, any supplemental material that highlights the maintaining of the learning environment responsive to community contexts. And below this table, we have provided you with descriptors on the specific terminologies used in Objective 13. So when we say learning environment, that is the classroom and other physical learning areas outside the classroom. So this is this is a useful info for our teacher broadcasters, because again, you are currently reassigned as broadcasters in the central office. When we say community context, this refers to the general situation and circumstances in which learners learn from instruction. And when we talk about community or the wider school community, this refers to both internal and external stakeholders. So further down our additional notes for objective 13, when we're talking about learning environments responsive to community context, we have here sample activities that foster an engaged community. So please refer to our additional notes here to help you determine or to help you in the preparation of your supplementary materials. Moving on to objective 14, reviewed regularly personal teaching practice using existing laws and regulations that apply to the teaching profession and the responsibilities specified in the Code of Ethics for Professional Teachers. So as you can see, under the MOVs column, we have 4 kinds of MOVs. So for example, if you have an annotated video or audio recording of your own teaching that shows the impact of regularly reviewing one's teaching practice, then possession of this MOV will automatically garner you a performance rating of 5 or an outstanding. Because if you look into our performance indicator for outstanding, it says there, exhibited an improved practice through one's own teaching, and then at the bottom portion, as evidenced by MOV number 1. So take note, when the tool or the performance indicators are specified like this, it states that as evidenced by MOV number, then there is already a corresponding MOV for that performance rating. Meaning, only MOV1 or the annotated video or audio recording will be the acceptable MOV for you to get a rating of outstanding. Next MOV, if you do not have an annotated video or audio recording, you may submit an annotated teaching material that shows the impact of regularly reviewing one's teaching practice. So this may be in a form of a lesson plan, assessment materials, and other documents that you can specify. So if in case you submit an annotated teaching material, that is equivalent to a very satisfactory performance. If you submit a personal reflection note or notes as your MOV, that equates to a satisfactory. And then if you provide a proof of attendance with date of a LAC session or a coaching and mentoring session, that will result to a rating of 2 or unsatisfactory. Of course, non-submission of any of these MOVs will equate to a poor or a 1. So one common question that we get on MOVs is, for example, you have a laundry list of MOVs in a certain objective. Does the teacher have to submit everything? For example, the teacher has MOV 1, 2, 3, and 4. Do they need to submit all? The answer is no. So whatever is being requested for a particular indicator, for example, it says there that to get an outstanding, you just need to submit MOV 1. Even though you have all 4 MOVs, then it's enough for you to submit MOV 1. So there is no need for you to submit everything on this laundry list of MOVs. Next, we have objective 15, or the complied with and implemented school policies and procedures consistently to foster harmonious relationships with learners, parents, and other stakeholders. Now, again, in the context of teacher broadcasters, when we say school policies, we made sure to modify the means of verification because, again, you are reassigned to the central office. You are no longer at the school level. So when you look at our means of verification, for example, MOV number 1, if you present proof of participation or involvement in a community partnership at the national level, regional level, division, or even school level for the implementation of any DepEd or school policy procedures, such as the implementation of the BELCP, then that is a rating of 5 or an outstanding performance. So specifically in number 1, if you can see, we have provided examples here. If you can provide proof of participation or involvement, such as your reassignment orders, a certificate as a committee member or a narrative report. Actually, the submission of your assignment orders, the fact that you are full-time teacher broadcasters, that is already an outstanding performance as far as this objective is concerned. So that is one thing to take note when it comes to this objective. And also, please refer to the note that we provided at the bottom of this table. So in this objective, the stakeholders, when we talk about stakeholders, again, given your context, these may include DepEd offices involved in the teacher broadcaster program, such as our ICTS or our public affairs service. And then further, the means of verification may also refer to the policies and procedures implemented at the national, regional, division, or school level. And an example provided here, again, is the BLCP. Okay. Now, moving on to Objective 16, applied a personal philosophy of teaching that is learner-centered. What is being asked for this objective is one lesson plan or one lesson script for a TV or radio-based instruction with annotations that identify the application of your personal philosophy of teaching that is learner-centered. Again, the lesson plan or the lesson script should contain these components of instruction, learning objectives, instructional activities, and assessments. And if you are able to reflect all of these components, then that will get you a rating of 5. But if 1 or 2 is missing, or one or some are poorly reflected, then you have here on our screen the respective equivalents on performance for those. Okay, so we are now down to our last 3 indicators for the Proficient tool. Objective 17 is adopted practices that uphold the dignity of teaching as a profession by exhibiting qualities such as caring attitude, respect, and integrity. So on our MOV column, we have here two kinds of MOVs. First is the document feedback from superiors, colleagues, or other stakeholders directly reflecting the ratees or your good practices that uphold the dignity of teaching as a profession. So if you are able to submit at least two documented feedback or MOV1, that is equivalent to an outstanding performance or a rating of 5. But if you were only able to submit 1 documented feedback, then that equates to a very satisfactory or 4. Now, what's the keyword for this particular objective? If you look at our performance indicator under outstanding, it says here, with affirmation from different school stakeholders. Who are these stakeholders? We have said that they may come from your superiors, colleagues, or other stakeholders. So for example, your colleagues, teacher 1 and teacher 2 gave you positive feedback. They gave you feedback that you were able to uphold the dignity of teaching. Since they are 2 different teachers, then that may be classified as 2 MOV. So you will get a rating of 5. So it can be a mix of stakeholders. So it can be from 2 different teachers, 2 different superiors. It can be a mix of 1 teacher or maybe your superior. So that can be allowed. But what if the documented feedback came from only 1 person or 1 stakeholder? For example, your one superior gave you multiple positive feedback that you were excellent in upholding the teaching profession. What's your rating? Is that very satisfactory or is that outstanding, since there were multiple documented feedbacks given? The answer is your rating is only 4 or very satisfactory, because again, our keyword here is different school stakeholders. So if you want to get a rating of 5, it has to be different or multiple stakeholders. But if the documented feedback came only from 1 person, despite it being multiple documented feedback, then that will only get you a rating of 4. Now, if you cannot provide document feedback directly reflecting your good practice, you may also submit annotated evidence of practice indirectly linking to the upholding of the dignity of teaching as a profession. And the 3 bullets here that we provided, so they may be remarks again from your superiors, colleagues, entries from the PMCF, recognition about your qualities and others that you think are applicable for this indicator, then you may submit that. Again, if you will submit annotated evidence, if you submit at least 2, then that is equivalent to a satisfactory rating. If you submit only one annotated evidence, then that is a rating of 2. And then non-submission of any MOVs will equate to a rating of 1. Okay, objective 18. Set professional development goals based on the PPST. We have here 4 kinds of MOVs, again with corresponding performance. If you submitted your updated IPCRF development plan from phase 2, then that is equivalent to an outstanding. If you submitted your mid-year review form or MRF, that's very satisfactory. If you submitted your IPCRF DP, so this one is the not updated version, that's only a satisfactory. Or if you submit a certification from the ICT coordinator, your school head, focal person in charge of your ESAT, then that is a rating of 2. Now take note, in episode 1, the speaker mentioned that given that the DepEd Memorandum number 4, Series 2022 was released just this Feb 2022, when it comes to the accomplishment of your SAT or your IDPs, the central office will allow for an adjustment on the timeline and the accomplishment of these forms. Okay, on to our last indicator, which is the plus factor, objective 19. Perform various related works or activities that contribute to the teaching and learning process. You have here another laundry list of MOVs that you can select from. Again, I highlighted there any proof of the following MOVs. So if you were involved in various committees, involvement as a module or learning material writer or validator, if you have a book or journal authorship or contributorship, if you have coordinatorships, if you participated as a research presenter in a forum, participation in demonstration teaching, or others that are not specified above, just provide annotations, then you can submit that as MOV. Again, we are not focusing on the quantity of MOVs that you will submit for objective 19 or the plus factor. If you look at our performance indicators, to get an outstanding, you just need to submit at least one MOV, provided that MOV covers, or the activity that you engaged in is beyond the school or beyond the community learning center. If the engagement was done within the school community, then that's a VS. If it's done within your learning area or your department, that's a satisfactory rating. And then if it's done within the class, then that is an unsatisfactory or a rating of 2. And then of course, non-submission would be a rating of 1 or a poor. Okay, so that ends our 19 indicators for the proficient teachers for full-time teacher broadcasters. Next, we will now discuss the classroom observable indicators or COIs for our highly proficient teachers, specifically our full-time teacher broadcasters. Again, before we start the discussion on the highly proficient indicators, please send us your comments and questions on the comment box below so that we can address your responses on real time. Now we will continue our discussion on the classroom observable indicators or the COIs for our highly proficient teacher broadcasters. So as you can see on your screen, you have there the summary indicators for the highly proficient teachers. And again, similar to our proficient indicators, These 19 indicators are applicable to both regular and full-time teacher broadcasters. Now, my presentation will again be divided based on the classification of these indicators. So the first part, I will discuss or present to you the classroom observable indicators, those highlighted in blue on your screen. Next, I will discuss to you the indicators that may be classified as COI or NCOI. And then the remaining indicators in white are your non-classroom observable indicators. Okay, so now we will start our discussion on the COIs first with objective number 1, or the modeled effective applications of content knowledge within and across curriculum teaching areas. So if you have been with me listening to the discussion on the Proficient Teachers RPMS-PPST tool, you would notice that when we discuss COIs, the MOVs required will be the classroom observation tool. But in the case of our highly proficient teachers, apart from your classroom observation tool, you are also required to partner this with a proof of attendance of your colleagues. So sa ating mga teacher broadcasters, yung ating mga COIs po will require COT, specifically obtained from an observation of a video lesson or audio lesson that is SLM-based or MELC aligned. And again, given the nature of the function of teacher broadcasters, we have our on-cam or our teacher broadcasters who do the actual delivery of lesson, and we also have our teacher broadcasters performing post-production functions. Please ensure that your provided materials or MOVs have proper annotation, specifically your contribution to the video or audio lesson. So that's it for the MOV. Let's focus our attention to the performance indicators. So for objective 1, in order for you to get an outstanding or a rating of 5, it says there you should be able to model a level 8 in objective 1 as shown in your COT. Model a level 7 if you want a satisfactory, or sorry, not if you are able to display a level 6 that is a satisfactory. If you display a level 5 in the COT rating sheet, that is equivalent to an unsatisfactory. And then if you are able to model a level 4 in this particular objective, or no acceptable evidence was shown, then that will equate to a rating of 4. So let's take a look into what we mean by level 8, level 7, down to level 4. So you will find the definition or the descriptors for those levels here in our COT RPMS rubric for our highly proficient teachers. So Master Teachers 1 up to Master Teacher 4. In this particular tool, you will see there the rubric level summary containing the various levels, their labels, and their level description. So for a Master Teacher, it says there that for you to get an outstanding, you need to demonstrate a level 8, or you need to model a level 8, which based on our rubric, that equates to discriminating. And what we mean by discriminating, that means the teacher is able to apply deep knowledge and understanding of the indicator discriminately to contextualize teaching and learning processes within the discipline to meet individual and group learning goals. So let's go back again to our example, indicator 1, apply knowledge of content within and across curriculum teaching areas. In order to get a level 8, it says here that the teacher should be able to apply a high-level knowledge of content and pedagogy within and across curriculum teaching areas that empower learners to acquire and apply successful learning strategies to assist in their development as independent learners. So the keyword there is high-level knowledge of content and pedagogy. When we go down to level 7, or very satisfactory, the teacher applies accurate, in-depth, and broad knowledge of content and pedagogy. And when we go down to level 6, 5, and 4, you will notice that there are also decreasing levels of performance. So depending on the levels that you are able to demonstrate or model, then that will be your performance for indicator number 1. Again, in our COT RPMS rubric, this tool is mainly used by our raters to guide them in the assessment of your teaching practice whenever you undergo classroom observation. And underneath these levels, you have here the features of practice. So these are sample practices or scenarios that also guides our raters whenever they do observation. Now let's move on to your second COI indicator, which is objective 3, modeled and supported colleagues in the proficient use of mother tongue, Filipino, and English to improve teaching and learning, as well as to develop learners' pride of their language, heritage, and culture. Take note, what we are focusing on this objective is the proficient use of mother tongue, Filipino, and English. So if you are just joining us now and you weren't able to join us earlier when I discussed this objective under the Proficient tool, what we are looking at objective 3 is the proficient use of the language. So mother tongue, Filipino, and or English. So again, we are not looking at the quantity or number of languages that you speak whenever you do classroom teaching or whenever you record your video or audio lessons. What we are looking at is your proficiency level. And in order to identify or determine your proficiency level, your raters will refer to our COT RPMS rubric so that they can see what level you are demonstrating whenever you are recording your audio or video lessons. So, but if you want to learn more about what does level 8 or level 7, level 6, 5, 4 means for this particular indicator, you may refer to our COT RPMS rubric. So the remaining COIs for our highly proficient teacher broadcasters are as follows. Objective 4, displayed a wide range of effective verbal and nonverbal classroom communication strategies. Objective 5, exhibited effective strategies that ensure safe and secure learning environments to enhance learning through the consistent implementation of policies, guidelines, and procedures. Objective 6, exhibited effective practices to foster learning environments that promote fairness, respect, and care to encourage learning. So these 3 sets of objectives are similar with our 2 previous COI. So again, the required MOV is the COT rating sheet partnered with the proof of attendance of your colleagues. And then for the performance indicators, for the descriptions of these levels 8 to level 4, you may refer to our COT RPMS rubric to know more about them. Now, let's move on to objective 9 and later on objective 10. Earlier, when I presented to you the summary list of indicators, if you remember, there are 2 indicators highlighted in orange that says that these indicators may be classified as COI and NCOI. And you will see that under the means of verification, the reason that they may be classified as COI or NCOI depends on the MOV. So for objective 9, assisted colleagues to design, adapt, and implement teaching strategies that are responsive to learners with disabilities, giftedness, and talents. If your audio or video lesson is targeted to these types of learners, then you will need to prepare or submit set A, so COT rating sheet with the proof of attendance of your colleagues. But if in case your audio or video lesson is not targeted to learners with disabilities, giftedness, and talents, then you will provide set B or present set B, the teacher reflection form. And when we talk about teacher reflection form, we will provide you in the form different scenarios or prompts, and then you will answer based on the given situation. And your answers, instead of going through classroom observation, your teacher reflection form will be evaluated or assessed by your rater using the TRF rubric. And similar to our RPMS rubric, wherein you have levels 8, 7, 6, 5, and 4, the TRF rubric also have these varying levels from level 1 to level 5 to determine your performance or your grade in the accomplishment of the TRF. So this particular objective, the accomplishment of the MOV shall depend again on your learner demographic. The same is the case with Objective 10, developed and applied teaching strategies to address effectively the needs of learners from indigenous groups. So for this objective, we are now focusing our attention to our IP learners. And then we will follow the same treatment. If your target audience for the video or audio lesson are IP learners, then you will provide set A. You will undergo classroom observation. But if you do not have, or your target audience is not IP learners, you will provide set B, MOV, which is the TRF or the teacher reflection form. Okay, so that ends our classroom observable indicators for highly proficient teachers. This time around, we will now move on to the NCOIs for the highly proficient teachers. So on your screen, you now see here Objective 2, evaluated with colleagues the effectiveness of teaching strategies that promote learner achievement in literacy and numeracy. So focus your attention on the means of verification. What you need to submit or prepare here are any supplementary material, whether in print or digital format, made by you, used in the lesson delivery, that highlights the teaching strategy that promote learner achievement in literacy and numeracy. So when we say supplemental material, that may be in the form of a lesson plan, one lesson from a self-learning module or SLM, your lesson plan, a video or audio lesson that is SLM-based or MELC-based, and other learning materials in print or digital format that you think demonstrates or hits this particular objective. Just please provide specific annotations to support the document. Aside from the supplementary material that you will submit, you are also required to furnish your rater with a copy of minutes of the focus group discussion with your fellow mentors or minutes of a coaching and mentoring session with teachers that show that you evaluated their teaching strategies that promote learner achievement in literacy and numeracy. Another NCOI is Objective 7, work with colleagues to share successful strategies that sustain supportive learning environments that nurture and inspire learners to participate, cooperate, and collaborate in continued learning. So again, the MOV follows the same logic. Any supplementary material in print or digital format that highlights this time around the strategies that sustain supportive learning environments and that nurture and inspire learners to participate. Coupled with, again, the minutes of a focus group discussion or minutes of coaching and mentoring session with your teachers. Next objective, Objective 8, modeled successful strategies and supported colleagues in promoting learning environments that effectively motivate learners to work productively by assuming responsibility for their own learning. Take note, the supplementary material should highlight successful strategies in promoting learning environments that effectively motivate learners to work productively. And then last, for this set of objectives, we have Objective 11, work collaboratively with colleagues to evaluate the design of learning programs that develop the knowledge and skills of learners at different ability levels. So again, submission of any supplementary material in print or digital made by you that highlights the design of learning programs that develop the knowledge and skills of learners at different ability levels would be enough to accomplish or demonstrate this objective, as well as the minutes of the FGD or the minutes of coaching and mentoring sessions. Now, take note in all of these indicators are objectives, objective 2, 7, 8, and 11. If you look at the bottom part of your tool, you have their additional notes to help you in the determination of or the preparation of your MOVs, and also some sort of guide on the preparation of the MOVs, such as, for example, we have here a note on supplementary materials made by the ratee. So there is an asterisk there. What we mean by made by the ratee is that if in case your supplementary materials are the result of a collaborative work or a group effort among your teachers, then you may still submit that particular material, but please provide us again or provide your rater with proper annotation specifying your contribution on the development of the said supplementary material. Okay, moving on to objective 12, work collaboratively with colleagues to analyze and utilize assessment data to modify practices and programs to further support learner progress and achievement. So we have one or two means of verification for this objective. You need to submit your accomplished LAC plan that is anchored with the school LAC plan to analyze and utilize assessment data to modify practice and or program to further or support learner progress and achievement with, the accomplished LAC plan should be partnered with any one used in the implementation of the LAC plan. So they may be the minutes of your LAC session on the analysis of the assessment data, any proof of collaborative review of learner assessment data, your lesson plan or a lesson script for TV or radio-based instruction, any proof of collaborative review of intervention materials developed for the remediation or enhancement, or other documentation that you have that may reflect this objective. But please again provide annotations to support your other documents. Next, objective 13, reflected on and evaluated learning environments that are responsive to community contexts. So again, this objective requires the submission of any supplemental material that highlights the reflection on and evaluation of learning environments that are responsive to community context. And at the bottom of our matrix for objective 13, we have here some terminologies. We have provided the description for these terminologies to help you better understand the requirements of this objective. So when we say learning environment, that is the classroom and other physical learning areas outside the classroom. When we say community context, this refers to the general situations and circumstances in which learners learn from instruction. And lastly, when we talk about community or wider school community, this refers to both external and external stakeholders. And then further down our notes, we have provided here sample activities that foster an engaged community. So we have provided here samples on pedagogical approaches, curricular approaches, co-curricular approaches that you may consider. Objective 14, discuss with colleagues teaching and learning practices that apply existing codes, laws, and regulations that apply to the teaching profession and the responsibilities specified in the Code of Ethics for professional teachers. So under the MOV column, you have there 4 types of MOVs. If you focus your attention to MOV1, if you are able to provide minutes of LAC session or professional meeting to discuss the Code of Ethics of Professional Teachers and the reviewed annotated evidence of practice of colleagues, meaning your notes, your annotations on the practice of your teachers, then this MOV will be equivalent to an outstanding performance. If you are able to submit minutes of LAC session or professional meetings to discuss the Code of Ethics with the reviewed personal reflection notes of your colleagues, then this is equivalent to a very satisfactory rating. If you're only able to provide the minutes of the LAC sessions, then that is a satisfactory rating. And then lastly, if you provide an activity proposal or the LAC plan, then that equates to unsatisfactory. Then of course, non-submission of any of the MOVs provided here will result to a rating of 1 or 4. Now, just a reminder to our highly proficient teacher broadcasters, you are not required to submit all of these 4 MOVs. Even if you possess, even if you have all of these MOVs 1, 2, 3, and 4, you are not required to submit all of them. Just choose the one that will garner you the highest rating, and that is MOV number 1. And then that will be enough. That will be enough for you to be graded with an outstanding. Next, objective 15, exhibited commitment to and supported teachers in the implementation of school policies and procedures to foster harmonious relationships with learners, parents, and other stakeholders. So for the MOVs on this particular objective, our highly proficient teachers need to present an evaluation report on the implementation of the school policy or procedures, or minutes of subject area or grade level meetings on evaluating school procedures and policies. So if you are able to reach the evaluation stage of the implementation of these policies, then that is enough to garner you a rating of 5 or an outstanding. If you are able to submit a minutes of subject area or grade level meetings on the implementation of the school policies and procedures, take note the MOV here states that provide at least 2 minutes to show that discussions were actually held, and that is equivalent to a very satisfactory rating. If you are able to submit minutes of subject area, grade level meeting on disseminating the information on the implementation of the school policies, that is equivalent to a satisfactory rating. And then lastly, if you are able to submit MOV number 4, proof of implementation of school policies, then that is equivalent to an unsatisfactory or 2. Then again, similar to the previous objective, non-submission of any of these MOVs will equate to a 1. And you are not required to submit all MOVs, all 1, 2, 3, 4, even if you have them. Just choose the highest one that will get you the highest performance rating, and then that will be enough. Only submit one MOV for objective number 15. Unless otherwise specified. For example, if you are submitting MOV2, we have an MOV2 and MOV3, we have noted here that you have to at least provide 2 to show that discussions were held. Next objective, manifested a learner-centered teaching philosophy in various aspects of practice and support colleagues in enhancing their own learner-centered teaching philosophy. So the MOVs for this one are the sample lesson plans of colleagues with your annotations about enhancing their learner-centered teaching philosophy. The submission of these sample lesson plans will equate to an outstanding performance. If you have minutes of LAC sessions that talk about the enhancement of teachers' learner-centered teaching philosophy through lesson planning, then that is equivalent to a very satisfactory. If you submitted the LAC plan, that is equivalent to a satisfactory. And if you submitted the lesson plan exemplar, then that will equate to an unsatisfactory. Okay, we're now down to our last 3 indicators for the highly proficient teacher broadcasters. Objective 70, identified and utilized personal professional strengths to uphold the dignity of teaching as a profession to help build a positive teaching and learning culture within the school. So again, we have here a laundry list of our MOVs, and in order for you to get an outstanding performance, you need to submit MOV number 1, which is your performance coaching and mentoring form, or the PMCF, with remarks in terms of upholding the dignity of teaching. Specifically, that you were able to show guidance, you were able to show or to give remarks to your teachers that they are able to uphold the dignity of teaching practice. So submit that, and then you will get a performance rating of 5 or outstanding. If you are unable to submit a PMCF and you have their documented feedback from your superiors or colleagues or other stakeholders directly reflecting the ratee's good practices that uphold the dignity of teaching, then that is equivalent to a very satisfactory rating. If you only have annotated evidence of practice indirectly linking the upholding of the dignity of teaching as a profession, that is equivalent to a rating of 3 or satisfactory. And when we say annotated evidence under number 3, MOV number 3, we have provided their sample evidence that you may provide remarks from superior or colleagues about one's personal professional qualities, recognition from the school or school community about one's qualities, and others that you think that may fit or that will be aligned to the attainment of this objective. And lastly, our MOV number 4, if you have personal notes on one's personal professional strengths, then that is equivalent to an unsatisfactory rating. Okay, next, the Objective 18 reflected on the Philippine Professional Standards for Teachers to plan personal professional development goals and assist colleagues in planning and achieving their own goals. So again, we have here a list of means of verification that have corresponding performance indicators. If you are able to submit your updated IPCRF development plan from phase 2, then that is an outstanding performance. If you are able to submit either mid-year review form or performance monitoring and coaching form, MOV number 2 and number 3, either of those, that will equate to a very satisfactory performance already. If you are able to submit your IPCRF development plan, so this one is not the updated version, unlike the one required in number 1, then this will get you a rating of satisfactory. And then lastly, if you get a certification from your ICT coordinator, your school head, or your focal person in charge of your ESAT and IPCRF BP, then that is equivalent to a rating of 2. So just a very quick note or a very quick reminder of what was discussed in episode 1, when we discussed the overview of our DepEd Memorandum 4, Series 2022. Since that said DM was released just this February 2022, the central office will allow for adjustment on the conduct of certain RPMS-related activities. So such as the accomplishment of the ESAT, if you take note here under unsatisfactory, it says that the accomplished ESAT at the beginning of the school year. So given the delay in the issuance of the DM, DepEd will allow adjustment again on the time. So please refer to our memos or advisories regarding the updates on our RPMS timeline for this school year. So we are now at our last indicator, the plus factor, or Objective 19, performed various related works or activities that contribute to the teaching learning process. So on your screen, you can see there our laundry list of MOVs. If you were able to serve as a coordinator or chairperson, if you were part or offered a book or contributed to a book or journal, if you served as a module or learning material writer, if you also served as a module or learning material validator, if you're part of any committees, if you observed during the teaching performance of our teachers 1 to 3, or any other documents that you think falls under the plus factor objective, then you may submit that as your means of verification. Moving on to our performance indicator, you will see there that the required number of MOVs to be submitted
is at least 1. So you may notice under outstanding, very satisfactory, satisfactory, and even unsatisfactory, we only require at least 1 related work or activity that contributed to the teaching and learning process. So again, we are highlighting here that we are focusing on the quality and not the quantity of MOVs that teachers need to submit. However, what we do need to focus on, aside from the quality of our MOVs, is the coverage of the MOV that you will submit. So for example, if you want to get a rating of outstanding, we have to make sure that the MOV or your engagement goes beyond the school or the community learning center. If your engagement falls within the school or the CLC, then that is equivalent to a rating of very satisfactory. If it is only within your learning area or your department, that's equivalent to a satisfactory. And then if it is only within the class, then that is an unsatisfactory performance. And of course, if no MOV was submitted, then that will be equivalent to a 1 or a poor performance. And that is it for our 19 indicators for the highly proficient full-time teacher broadcaster. So I hope you were able to take note of some of the key points out of the 19 indicators that was presented to you. And if you can, please type in the comment section your questions or clarifications so our secretariat may address them in real time. Now, moving on to the last portion of my discussion, I will present to you the updates on the alternative classroom observation. So in our DepEd Memorandum number 4, Series 2022, we provided there that for this school year, there will be a maximum of 2 classroom observations to be conducted through any of the following modes. So the synchronous mode, the asynchronous mode, the LAC session, or the limited face-to-face classroom observation. And as an additional note, we would like to remind our school heads, our teachers, our raters and ratees that in the selection of the classroom observation to be conducted, we need to prioritize, or this will depend on the adopted LDM of the school. So if the school said that they will adopt 100% online synchronous learning, then it shall follow that the classroom observation shall also be done synchronously. So in the next few slides, I will briefly share with you the specifics of each classroom observation mode, starting with the synchronous mode. And this one applies to our teachers who, again, adopt the online synchronous learning or the two-way radio instruction, regardless of the number of classes and learners. Now, the second option, which is asynchronous mode, this one is applicable only when option 1 is not possible. And if you can see there in the second bullet, this one applies to our teachers who will adopt online asynchronous learning through video lesson or audio lesson in any of their classes and learners. So in the case of our full-time teachers, option 2 or the asynchronous mode is the recommended mode for classroom observation in your context. So even though we have four options for the classroom observation, again, for our full-time teacher broadcasters, when conducting classroom observation, you will follow the asynchronous mode. In the last 2 bullets there on your screen, we have shared this, or this one is directed more to our regular teachers, those who conduct online classroom teaching, or those that have direct access to our learners. So in bullet number 3, we have stated there that the video lesson or audio lesson shall be used in lesson delivery as part of the supplementary materials or as one of the learning materials for online asynchronous learning or two-way radio instruction. So the reason why we included this is because in the case of our regular teachers, sometimes they include in their lesson a sample video lesson or audio lesson that they got in our different platforms such as DepEd Philippines, such as the ones that our teacher broadcasters post online. So when they do classroom observation, we remind them that the video or audio lesson should show them demonstrating our different classroom observable indicators. So they are not allowed to submit as MOV the video lesson or audio lesson created by other teachers, but it should show them demonstrating the different teaching practices required under the PPST. And then in the last bullet, just another reminder to our teachers. It is not the same. The video lessons or audio lessons that teachers create for classroom observation or for their lessons are not the same as those TV-based instruction or audio lessons produced by our central, regional, or division office. So to continue, the option 3 for our alternative classroom observation is the LAC session, and this one shall only be applicable when options 1 and 2 are not possible. So in general, this option applies to our teachers who adopt pure modular learning or radio-based instruction and TV-based instruction. And then lastly, you have here option 4, the limited face-to-face. This one only applies to our public and private schools that are located in minimal or low risk areas based on the criteria set by DOH and those that pass the school safety assessment of DepEd. So authorized public or private schools that are allowed to conduct limited face-to-face classes shall follow our usual classroom observation protocols, but of course subject to the strict observance of the COVID-19 health and safety precautions or the prevailing community quarantine protocols in their area. So again, for our schools that even though they are authorized to conduct limited on-site face-to-face classes, we still encourage that if in case they can foresee any challenges or risks on the day of the conduct of the classroom observation, we encourage that teachers, that school heads use our other modes, whether it's synchronous, asynchronous, or LAC session. What's important when we do classroom observation is that we prioritize the health and safety of our learners, our teachers, and the rest of our school employees. Now, to share with you all the tools that was discussed here on episode 3, and even those tools that were presented to you in episode 1 and episode 2 of our series, you may access them here on the link provided, bit.ly/all caps RPMS-PPST 2021 to 2022. So all of our COT, our teacher reflection forms, our RPMS-PPST tools for the regular and full-time teacher broadcasters are uploaded in the link provided on your screen. And as an additional note, we would like to remind everyone to please double check and use your official DepEd email address for you to be able to view and download these resource materials. So if you want to know more about the RPMS-PPST, please join us again in episode 3, where we will discuss the other support materials that was released together with our DM4 Series 2022, as well as the frequently asked questions when it comes to our RPMS-PPST implementation. And if you have any further questions or clarifications on the RPMS for teachers, you may reach us at the BHROD there on our email or on our telephone number provided on your screen, or you may also contact our partners on this engagement, the Philippine Normal University Research Center for Teacher Quality, or the PNU RCTQ. So once again, I am Bianca of the BHROD HRDD. Thank you for tuning in to episode 2, and I will see you again on episode 3. Good day and thank you, everyone.